better part of the budget process. And I think the council at the time agreed to that. So that's where it came. It came from me originally.
Okay. So you're comfortable with deferring it then?
Yeah.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. Councillor Sun.
Sorry, I just wanted to make note. I did forget to mention I do have a conflict on check number 501177. The check is to my wife who works in daycare for expenses, so I won't be making. So I'm not sure if I should be moving the consent. I probably shouldn't be. So I probably should have some other council member do that in my behalf. Thanks.
Okay, Deputy Campbell, you got that? All in favor? Carried.
My apologies.
Thank you. It's okay. Okay. What's the word? We need a motion to adjourn the regular council meeting to have a planning advisory committee meeting. Councillor Hallahan, Councillor Ritzman-Tenenga, all in favor? Okay. Call the planning advisory committee meeting to order. Ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. This is file temporary use zoning bylaw amendment. Part 129, registered plan 22R 1295, parts 1 and 2, concession 1, East Wawanosh, Township of North Huron, fire number 38616, Blythe Road. The purpose of this public meeting is for the Planning Advisory Committee of the Township of North Huron to consult with the public on the zoning amendment identified above. The requirement for the public meeting. This public meeting is required to be held pursuant to the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended, which requires that council shall hold at least one public meeting and that all property owners within 120 meters of the affected area will be given notice of the meeting by the clerk of the municipality. Pursuant to the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended, council shall forward to such boards, commissions, authorities, or other agencies as council considers may have an interest in the proposal sufficient information to enable them to understand it generally. 6. Purpose of the zoning amendment. The purpose of the proposed temporary zoning bylaw amendment is to permit a temporary secondary dwelling unit on part lot 29, registered plan 22R 1295, parts 1 and 2, East Wawanosh Ward, Township of North Huron, 38616 Blythe Road. The temporary secondary dwelling is permitted to be used by farm employees or farm family who are involved in the farming operation and will be required to be removed at the expense of the owner when it is no longer required or the temporary use bylaw expires. The temporary dwelling unit must be either a mobile home or a modular home designed to be movable and will have a maximum ground floor area of 130 square meters or 1,400 square feet. The temporary dwelling will be clustered with the existing buildings. The temporary dwelling will not be entitled to a severance from the farm parcel. The proposed bylaw can be in effect for up to 20 years, with the renewal of the bylaw requiring further public meeting. This bylaw amends zoning bylaw 82/2008, Township of North Huron bylaw for the duration of the temporary use. Comments of the planner, Laura?
Good evening, Council. So as mentioned, this is an application for a temporary use zoning bylaw amendment to permit a temporary a temporary secondary dwelling unit, also known in the Planning Act as a garden suite. Both in the report and in my presentation, the term garden suite as well as temporary secondary dwelling unit are used interchangeably because they do mean effectively the same thing. They mean a secondary dwelling to an existing dwelling on farm property, meant for either people working on and contributing to the farm operation or farm family who are also involved in the farm operation to live for a set period of time. The Planning Act in Section 39 describes a garden suite as a one-unit detached residential structure containing kitchen and bathroom facilities that is ancillary to an existing residential structure and that is designed to be portable. In previous examples in Huron County, both a modular home and a mobile home have been found to be satisfactory to be considered a temporary dwelling in the case of a garden suite. The section of the Planning Act authorizes council to pass this temporary bylaw permitting the use of the garden suite with the condition that an agreement may be entered into between the applicant and North Huron relating for matters in the temporary nature of the garden suite. So this is outlined in the official plan that the temporary garden suite is to be removed once the need for additional farm residence has ceased. The Planning Act does permit this for up to 20 years, and that's considered a temporary nature for this type of secondary unit. The temporary secondary dwelling shall meet the MBS requirements. The proposed location for this unit was tested against the minimum distance separation to barns and livestock facilities in the surrounding area and was found to satisfy that test. It shall be situated within the existing clusters of buildings, provided with adequate sewage treatment and the use of the existing driveway for access. The applicants are proposing to locate the garden suite in close proximity to the existing barn and dwelling and are aware they need to satisfy the CBO with regards to septic disposal prior to approval or issuing a building permit. And they're not requesting any new driveway or entrance off of Blythe Road. It's supportive of the goals for the agricultural lands because, as mentioned, both the North Huron official plan and Section 39 of the Planning Act do direct garden suites to be permitted in an agricultural area to provide as an affordable second unit for people who are contributing to a farming operation. As well, in the North Huron zoning bylaw, a mobile home is permitted as an accessory to an existing residence in the AG1 zone, which is the zone of this property. And Section 3.11 garden suites of the North Huron zoning bylaw also recognizes garden suites being permitted by passing of a bylaw from council, as well as authorizing council to enter into that agreement for North Huron and the applicant. So I'm recommending approval because this is consistent with the North Huron bylaw, as well as the official plan for North Huron and the provincial policy statement with direction to residences and agriculture.
Okay, thanks, Laura. I take these are the applicants.
Yes, this is Stephanie Moore.
Is there anything that you would like to add to what Laura has said?
No, that's okay.
Okay, thank you. With the script that I'm supposed to read, part 9, comments of others. Even though there really isn't a lot of others here in the gallery, if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of North Huron before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the Township of North Huron to the Ontario Municipal Board and may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the Ontario Municipal Board unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body. Members of the public are asked to provide comment. Okay, moving to point 10, Planning Advisory Committee members, questions and or comments. Mr. Zeit?
Yeah. Through you, Laura, when it says the temporary dwelling is to be removed once the need for the additional farm residence has ceased, who determines whether it's needed or not? Is it left up to the agreement holder, the owners of the land, or does the county or the municipality responsible for kind of doing the check-in to see if it's still a need?
The municipality understands, as part of the agreement, understands that there will be that unit there for the 20 years, as in the agreement. So it would be up to the landowner or applicant if they don't require that farm assistant or farm family to live there before the 20 years are up, and they don't want to have that or have it connected to their existing septic or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
Point 11, the zoning bylaw procedure. Oh, sorry, James?
You knew I'd have a question, didn't you?
No,
Will this trailer or double wide, whatever they put in, will we be required to have another fire number put at the gateway? Because we have 2 residents there?
I don't believe so, no.
when it's in the building cluster, I don't believe another fire number would be applicable.
Okay, I'm just wondering, like with it being a trailer and the call was in for the trailer, the fire department knows what they're going to. That's my only concern. They're both going to be right close by, but it's,
Well, there is a lot of modular homes on my road, on Blythe Road, and
yes.
I think there's one location that has 3 buildings, like a home and possibly 2 modular homes, and there is 3 911 numbers, now that you say that.
Yeah.
Some of
that is
those
a good
might
point.
be by severance though.
Oh, okay, I wouldn't know that.
I can check that out with the.
Yeah,
I think it's something we should check out. It's just a safety issue, really. Is all.
okay. Any further questions?
Oh, okay.
Okay. The clerk will check that out as to what's what. Zoning bylaw procedure following the public meeting. This is a public meeting of the Planning Advisory Committee, not a council meeting. That's a decision of the council, may or may not be made this evening. If the bylaw is passed by council, the clerk is required to send notice of the passing of the bylaw to all persons and agencies notified of this public meeting. There is a 20-day objection period from the time notice of passing of the bylaw has been mailed by first-class post, wherein submissions or letters of objection or support in respect to the passing of the bylaw will be received by the clerk. If an objection is received, an appeal is lodged with the Ontario Municipal Board, and at that point, the township no longer has any control over the time factor involved. If council does not pass the bylaw, the applicant may appeal to the Ontario Municipal Board. If the bylaw is passed and no objections are received within the objection period, the clerk certifies that the bylaw is in force and effect as to the date of its passing, and the notice is forwarded to the Huron County Planning and Development Department. 12, you've already stated the recommendation of the Planning and Development Department. So we go to 13 and a recommendation from the advisory committee to go to council.
I'll make that.
And got that? Okay. And that that it be adopted. Okay. Okay, it's A, B, or C here. A is adopted, B would be deferred or denied, so it's the motions to adopt. All in favor?
I didn't get a second.
Oh, Callahan.
You need your little alphabet soup. You have, I
Yeah.
would say, 2A and 1B. Right? So no comments from the public and one. Does that make sense to you?
No comments were received from the public for this application.
Input from the planning report would be good.
Okay,
Sounds good.
that is part of that motion. Okay, that's taken care of. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 14, that there being no further business for the Planning Advisory Committee, the public meeting be hereby adjourned at 7:16.
So moved.
Biden and Singh, all in favor? Carried. Okay. A motion to reconvene the council meeting. Site, Ritzman Taninga. All in favor? Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
And okay. Motion in open council.
Yes.
Basically the same motion again, for councilors to make,
Yes.
Vaughn and Campbell. All in favor of the motion? Carried. It can happen now. And
Thank you.
And this is resolution regarding further notice pursuant to section 3417 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, whereas the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron has held a public meeting pursuant to section 3412 and section 39 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw, and where certain changes have been made to the proposed bylaw after holding of the public meeting. Now therefore, the Corporation of the Township of North Huron hereby resolves that pursuant to section 3417 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, no further notice is to be given in respect of the proposed bylaw. Do I have a mover? Councillor Knott, Councillor Ritzman Taninga, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving to 6.11, Huron County Shared Service for CEMC.
I'll move it.
And Ritzman Taninga to second it. Is there any discussion on this? All in favor? Carried. Moving to 6.2.1. The Council of the Township of North Huron hereby appoints Director of Finance Donna White.
I'm sorry, you missed your,
Pardon?
you missed your report on
For,
6.1.2.
ooh, sorry. It's not back there. No, that's. Six point 1.2. Yeah, her finger has more electricity in it than mine. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby authorizes the clerk to work with the municipalities of Morris Turnberry, Huron East, and Central Huron to prepare the necessary materials required for the application for the funding under Ontario's Natural Gas Grant Program to extend natural gas from Blythe to Walton. Councillor Knott moves, Councillor Biden seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Okay. Now to 6.2.1 again, and that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby appoints the Director of Finance, Donna White, as the appeal representative, and Clerk Kathy Adams as the complaints representative for the Township of North Huron as the contacts for an appeal to the Assessment Review Board. And further that this contact information be provided to the ARB. Moving rates, Callahan and Knott. All in favor? Carried. Yeah, okay. There. And 6.2.2, the White Church Water, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report from the Director of Finance for information purposes. And further that Council agrees to pass a bylaw to ensure that the existing users of White Church Water System remain connected to the system, and that a bylaw be prepared for the July 17th, 2017 council meeting. Councillor Knott, Deputy Reeve Campbell. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Uh, 6.3.1, the Aquatic Center, and that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approve the proposed work by Cliffs Plumbing and Heating for the Aquatic Center HVAC upgrades for the total cost of $79,140. And further that the Council of the Township of North Huron approves an exception to section 19.1 of the procedural bylaw to allow bylaw number 60, 2017 to be passed at the July 4th council meeting. Councillor Bodden? Councillor Ritzman-Taninga? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, and 6.3.2 for the international plowing match, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approves 20 days of staff time as in-kind support to the IPM to be held September 19th to the 23rd, 2017. Councillor Sype? Councillor Ritzman-Taninga? Councillor Sype?
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that I understand that. So this has been budgeted under the economic development budget. So,
Yes.
And has there anything, just so I remember, has there anything else been budgeted for IPM with regards to, is there potential for any other requests to come from the IPM with regards to support other than this particular section?
Who wants to answer?
There is another one from Public Works.
Yeah, I know that one. I'm just
Yeah.
I was more concerned about these two, and then I know those two are budgeted. I'm more concerned about ones that aren't, potentially.
You just don't want surprises.
No,
Pat?
So the $5,000 is funds allocated strictly for the display and barn and handouts and giveaways. The 20 days of staff time is not included in that $5,000. That is a pure in-kind donation and it's not part of the $5,000.
okay.
So later on in the report, there's an outline of our proposed budget at this point based on the costs that we've collected to date. And so there's questions as to whether we're going to spend the $2,000 on this handout or whether we're going to invest in a silo, which is part of the display. We're just waiting to see back from Huron County, but our goal is not to exceed the $5,000 on our giveaways and display in our barn, which is part of the expo.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Knott.
I just want to pop back to the 20 days of staff time. Does that include the request from the Works Department, that 20 days? Because I see we've only got 5 days covered in here, actually specifically covered, and that's for the front gate support.
Go ahead, Larry. Pat.
So there are 5 days for people to assist one person each day to assist at the front gate.
Yeah.
And then our expo will require 3 people each day to man that station. They anticipate over that time frame to have, over 25,000 people through there. So in order for people to get breaks and throughout the day, we're staffing it with 3 people. We would also like, if counselors would like to be there as part of it, we'd like to include you on that schedule as well. So as far as the in-kind support would work, if somebody from the clerk's department were going to take a day and be there, it would just go against his regular salary and daily duties. We're not adding overtime into their week to be there. So the first request is going to be towards full-time staff who work either a 40 or 37.5-hour work week, and one of the days that they go there will be part of their work week, or 2 of the days, or 3, depending on how many days they are approved to go. But the total days we anticipate for this request from Huron County and to staff our own booth is 20 days of staff time.
Go ahead.
I'm just looking at the budget here. We're having to pay for parking passes for this, even
Yes.
for our own staff?
Correct.
IPM's getting tough, eh? What exactly is the interactive activity going to consist of?
So we've kind of been somewhat vague in that it's a bit competitive, and we're not revealing our big reveal just yet as to what North Huron has planned. We do have something very fun planned, and if you'd like to speak to me after when I'm not on the record, I'd be happy to allude a little closer to what our plan is. Can I say a lot without saying anything? But we're on purpose trying to be a little bit elusive about what our plan is.
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Sure.
Okay.
That's it for now.
James.
So do we have this $4,980 in our budget, or is it
Donna, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, Pat was just explaining that in the economic development budget this year, Connie had put that extra, it was $6,000 actually that she included in her budget to support this event meaning not wages, as was explained earlier, but to participate in our barn setup and whatever sort of handouts or whatever sort of giveaways North Huron was going to participate in.
All in favor of the motion? Carried. 6.33, Blythe's 140th anniversary. As printed,
There's 2 of them here, isn't there?
there's 2 parts to it, yes.
Yeah.
There's 2.
Do you want to speak to it, Pat?
I just want to ask that these be handled as 2 separate motions, because the second one is one that Cavill needs to actually take with them to the LCDO, and they don't need all the other stuff. So we'd like to have them as 2 separate motions on the record.
Okay, for the first motion, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby supports the efforts of the Blythe 140th Committee in planning their community celebration and waives the following fees: the Blythe Arena Dry Pad, Blythe Arena Hall Saturday night, and the Hawkers and Peddlers permit fee.
So
Councillor Gladden, Councillor Knott. Pat?
Sorry, and further, that is included in that motion?
yes.
There's a second part to that. That should be all one motion, please.
Okay. I think that's agreed by the
Okay.
mover and seconder.
Yeah.
All in favor? Okay, for A second motion that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby supports Blythe Caldwell Brewing Company in making application to the LCBO for a special location permit to hold a beer garden at the Blythe Lions Park Pavilion in conjunction with the Blythe 140th celebrations to be held on July 28th, 2017. And further, the council proclaim the event as a municipal significance. Councillor Sype, Councillor Knott, all in favor? Carried. Okay. And 6.4.1, curbside collection.
So can I move as written, since we've already
Yes,
done this before?
and Councillor Bodden seconds. Councillor Sype,
I would just like to record a recorded vote again, please.
okay?
Deputy Reed Campbell,
No.
Councillor Hallahan,
Yes.
Councillor Knott,
Yes.
Councillor Ritzmatanja,
No.
Councillor Sype,
No.
Vincent,
Yes,
Councillor Bodden.
Yes.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 yeas and 3 nays.
carried. Okay. 6.4.2. Is there,
Oh.
you'll move?
Yes. Also move.
Are you seconding, right?
Yes.
Okay, discussion?
I just want to make sure, there has been some discussion about how connections in the past have been connected to the system and what costs those were established for those corporations or those people. I guess my question is, I want to make sure that we're being fair and equitable to all the people who is establishing connection to the system. And I understand that over time, bylaws and fee changes and all that other stuff could happen. The concern is that for ratepayers who have been connected to the system for quite some time, I think we need to make sure that it is fair and equitable, that whoever's been connected before isn't getting unjust costs as opposed to connections today. So, I don't know of all the connections prior to this one. I know the policy based on what we've done with our shared services connection policy and that, but I'm wondering if council, I would like to see more information about that comparison to connections of other people, of other ratepayers, necessarily in Morris Cranberry or whatever, that have connected to the system of capital costs and operating costs to ensure that we are charging an equitable and fair for all the connections that are connecting to our infrastructure. So I'm wondering if that's a concern that any other councillor has.
Councillor Knott?
We're not charging anything for this. The cost of this is on the developer Brightspan. We're approving the hookups and the engineering that's gone into it to make sure that it complies with the requirements of North Huron and the county. But in fact, Brightspan is paying for this. This is.
So that's my concern. My concern is said company, Brightspan, is paying a number by another company or another person who's connected to the system. Is that number the same or more or what or whatever? I want to make sure it's fair and equitable for everybody. That, at the end of the day, we can approve whatever, and I agree with that, but, are we making an approval based on a specific case-by-case basis, or are we looking at fair and equitableness of the system to ensure that everybody is getting that fair, same treatment? I guess that's the question I have, because I don't get that sense in this. We're really only talking about Brightspan as an individual, not the collective group. So that's my concern about this particular agreement. Not the issue about Brightspan. It's not that at all. It's to ensure that we don't approve one thing and then get 4 or 5 other ones that come and ask us the question, well, why 50 years ago or 10 years ago did you charge us this? That's the question I have.
Councillor
It
Watt?
seems to me that there's possibly a legal issue here. Should we be bound by a decision that was made many years ago, in the early 80s, I believe, even if it's today inappropriate? On the other hand, should we automatically adopt the 1980 standards simply because that was the way it used to be? I don't know what the rule is there.
1991 was the one in particular. Councillor Knott?
I'm coming back to the original thing. I mean, since this is not us, it's actually Brightspan doing it. The guy next door could apply for connection using a different contractor and end up with a different price, but that's not our problem. This basically is to ensure that they construct the the connection, according to the standards and the bylaws required, and that they provide the certificates of insurance and deposits of securities that we require for them to proceed. But in fact, it's their choice of contractor, so the cost to them or to anyone else is irrelevant in our case, because we are not performing the work and charging back to them.
I have one other question. This is the capital cost of doing the business, but are there also costs in terms of ongoing servicing that need to be weighed as well? I don't know.
I'm not sure what your question is.
I'm not sure either. No, I'm just wondering about the whole deal, not just the making the connection, but the ongoing cost of servicing, providing the service.
I think on a per cubic meter basis, or however it's calculated, we've got things that will calculate operating costs that if I may be permitted, what is being questioned is a hookup fee.
Yeah.
And that a counselor that sat here for many years is the one that is questioning what his family business was billed in comparison. And that I think as council members, we have to have a full report showing how whatever he's charged right now was attributed to the hookup that they want for Brightspan. Right.
Well, that is saying that every hookup might cost different, right?
Most probably will be a little
Yes.
different.
That's entirely up to the developer, as Councilor Knott said. And it's up to that developer to maintain that
Yes.
from the property line on afterwards.
Yes.
So I can't see nothing wrong with it.
That yes, there's probably more sewage from the person that's questioning it, but the bill is also 4.5 times as big for him in 91 for a hookup.
Did we not have to extend the sewer line to meet that? That's all part of the initial.
To meet that was on top of the 71. As I understand it. Councillor Slate?
So,
Sorry.
like I said, I have to, like, fall back, I say, I think there's been some comments about, we're not charging them. There's dependability about the system and how developer charged them or whatever. That, as long as we can justify the costs that the municipality is charging a ratepayer, then I'm okay with whatever we're doing. The concern I have is if we can't justify what we charge a ratepayer, if we charged them 10 years ago, and what we're not charging them now, that's the concern I have as a counselor, because that's the door that's gonna come knocking on the door on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever. So if we can justify what we've charged them and what we're gonna charge them, not necessarily a developer, then so be it. I guess that's the question I have. As long as we're happy with the justification of how we charge and how our policies and procedures are set up, then I think I'm okay. I don't like the fact, and I will make point of this, I don't like the fact that we're allowing this one, I don't think it's fair to make the exception to the bylaw that says approve now and do the bylaw at the same time. That procedural bylaw was set there so that we're not having long-term discussions. Public is not necessarily here, but public is listening on there and don't have time to come back and have questions or ask the certain questions at the next council meeting. So that's where I don't like. I can agree with everything except for that part of that motion, accepting that 19.1 exception, because I don't think that's a fair transparency approach to getting the public's opinion about such an agreement.
I'll back him up on that. What you would like, if I understand, Councillor Seif, you would like us to remove that exception portion and then bring the bylaw forward at another meeting for approval. Correct?
That is my thought.
Does that satisfy you? I'm fine with that. I would suggest if it's possible, we bring it to the next meeting for approval. Will that hinder any problems with the?
Is that okay with you, Ray, there? As the
Yes.
seconder?
Yes, that'll be fine.
On that, Larry?
Just so I get this clear, council would like an explanation of how those charges were developed and how they've been applied to this particular development in relationship to any other one that we've been done recently or whatever.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for? So we'll have a report for that for next meeting.
Okay. That sounds good. Are we ready for the question then?
Just for clarification, so we're leaving that section out and further that the council, that section is gone.
Yes,
Okay.
the third one.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay. 6.4.3. And that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accepts the International Plowing Match Request Report for information purposes. And further, the council authorized Public Works Department to coordinate staff assistance and use of equipment and logistical items during setup and at the match with the municipality of Huron East and neighboring municipalities. And further, the council authorizes approval, if required, to accept sewage waste that would be delivered to the Wingham Sewage Treatment Plant for proper disposal. Councillor Knott, moving. Councillor Seif, seconding. Is there any discussion on this?
Just one brief question. Why do we use the Wingham versus the Blythe sewage treatment plant? Is that because there you have just the facilities are easier to accept?
Exactly. The Wingham plant will accept it easier than what the Blythe plant will. They are also looking at Seaforth and Brussels. So we may not get any
But what they're trying to do is know that they've got options.
That's no problem.
Basically, it's the same as in 2008 when it was in Teeswater. The Wingham would have given additional backup, but they didn't need it. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay. 6.4.4, this is the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby accepts the Westmoreland easement report for information purposes, and further that Reeve Clerk be authorized to sign the easement agreement with Baton's Old Mill Limited, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron approves an exemption to section 19.1 of the procedural bylaw to allow bylaw number 58, 2017 to be passed at the July 4th council meeting, and further that the Reeve Clerk be authorized to sign bylaw 58, 2017. Councillor Wadden, Councillor Knott, all in favor? Carried. And moving into correspondence at 7.1. And the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby supports the Blythe Lions in making application to the LCBO for a special occasion permit to hold a beer garden at the Blythe Lions Park in conjunction with the Blythe Lions Holy Board tournament to be held July 22nd, 2017. And that further that council proclaims the event to be municipally significant. Councillor Wadden,
Yep, go ahead.
Councillor Knott.
I'm just
Go
gonna
ahead.
ask the question, should we not be passing this in a separate section with for your LCBO permit? Or does that matter? In this case?
Nope, this is
This
just
one's
one
okay?
motion that they need to take to the.
This one's fine. the way-
Yes,
Okay.
the other one had all sorts of other
Yeah,
requests of waiving
yeah.
fees. No, this one's good.
Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. 7.2.
I'll move.
You're moving?
Yep.
Okay, seconder, Richmond Tenenga. All in favor? Carried. Council reports. Thank you to all those that helped with the East Long Marsh 150th celebrations on the weekend. And especially to Laura, she's a real good volunteer bartender.
Only
Thank you.
one thirsty.
I think everything went pretty well. The people sort of just came out of the woodwork to help out where needed. We didn't realize we would have to have a mud crew on the county road for vehicles coming out of the staging area to get into the parade. But it was very gratifying to see neighbor across the road come out with shovel and scrapers, and especially the tractor and loader to keep the county road cleaned off. And there was a number of things that happened like that that just made for a real good weekend. And yes, it was tiring, and it's going to take quite a while going over things, but one of the things that was thought was interesting was for the band Friday night, the one band member, gosh, that's a big tent. It pretty well it covered 180 feet of the parking lot side to side, so that it was big enough, but 750 people did come close to filling it up, along with the side areas. But all in all, I think At tear down yesterday morning, one of the significant comments was nobody got hurt, even requiring a Band-Aid or something for a bee sting. At an event that large, I think that's unusual, but very gratifying to know that nobody got hurt. That's been what's been occupying my time for the last bit. But I will make the comment, we did have first round interviews today for CAO, and yes, we did have some pretty good applicants for that. That we're going to try and have a second round for the top ones, but there looks like some promising prospects. You're not going to be here forever, Larry.
Okay.
I'll cut my comments at that. If council members have comments, or Councilor Knott?
I have a comment, and this, I guess, will probably end up in the lap of our health and safety. I was a little stressed today when I was out, and I observed a staff individual riding a lawn tractor down between parks or lawn cutting assignments, I guess, but riding down the road, middle of the road, with a cell phone in his hand, texting while he drove. And I think that we have to have our health and safety re-emphasize to them that, number one, that is illegal. Two, it is highly dangerous if they're not paying attention to where they are on the road, especially if they're driving a piece of equipment that isn't even illegal road vehicle, such as a lawnmower. But that I hope we can get that addressed next safety meeting, or even prior to that, that they perhaps should leave their personal cell phones at home or in their locker when they're out working.
Other council committee or anything? Okay. Open to bylaws then? Maybe.
For about 57.
I'm not sure what happened. It jumped back to 7.2 on me. Thanks. Her finger's the right size, I guess, for. Bylaw number 57, 2017, being a temporary use bylaw amendment to permit a temporary secondary dwelling unit on part lot 29 registered plan 22R 1295, parts 1 and 2, concession 1. Fire number 38616 Blythe Road, East Wallenosh Ward, Township of North Huron. Be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk, and to be engrossed in the bylaw book. Moved by Deputy Reeve Campbell and Councillor Hallahan. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. The bylaw number 58, 2017. Being a bylaw to authorize the Reeve clerk to sign on behalf of council a water service easement between the corporation of the Township of North Huron and Baton Toll Mill Limited. Be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Raven clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Knott, Councillor Vodden, all in favor? Carried. And that bylaw number 59, 2017, being a bylaw to authorize the Raven clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between the Corporation of the Township of North Huron and Waste Management of Canada for curbside solid waste and recyclables collection for a term of October 1st, 2017 to September 30th, 2020. Be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Raven clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Knott, Councillor Hallahan, all in favor? Carried. And the bylaw number 60, 2017, being a bylaw to authorize the Raven clerk to sign on behalf of council a memorandum of understanding between the Corporation of the Township of North Huron and Cliffs Plumbing and Heating for the HVAC upgrades for the Aquatic Center at North Huron Westcast Community Complex, to be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, and signed by the Raven clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Ritzman-Taninga and Councillor Sype, all in favor? Carried. Is it 16 that we're skipping?
Yeah.
Okay, computer knew more than me because it skipped 61. That bylaw number 62, 2017, being a bylaw to authorize the Raven clerk to sign on behalf of council an agreement between the Corporation of the Township of North Huron and Acapulco Pools for the North Huron Westcast Community Complex Pool Restoration Project. Be introduced, read a first, second, and third, and final time, signed by the Raven clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Knott, Councillor Vodden, all in favor? Carried. And that bylaw number 63, 2017, being a bylaw to amend Schedule B of bylaw 54, 2007, being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program for the Township of North Huron, be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the Raven clerk and engrossed in the bylaw book. Councillor Sype, Councillor Knott, all in favor? Carried. Announcements? Other business? Closed session? Councillor Knott and Councillor Ritzman-Taninga, all in favor? Okay, we'll have a short recess.
We're gonna have, sorry, one more.
Oh,
One more motion.
uh,
We're gonna do that one. We should do this one in open session.
that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby endorse clerk's delegation of power and duties under section 228(4) of the Municipal Act 2001, SO 2001, C 225, to Larry McGregor, interim CAO, for the Township of North Huron Council meeting closed session of council to be held July 4th. Mover, Councillor Knott, Councillor Deputy Reeve Campbell, all in favor. Did I ask for all in favor going in camera?